depending on the episode.
No one's going to listen to the intro. No, I'm just kidding.
They probably won't, though. Okay, so guys. We made it out of the chat.
Episode 1.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Things never make it out of the chat. I still have a chat with friends that I've been planning a trip to Key West, Florida for like over a year. And we did this. We came together in a matter of like 4 months. How
Not
long?
even.
We met in April,
End of
right?
April.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your friends.
Are you kidding? 4
I was like,
months.
what?
It's been 2 months.
I want to know about this chat. Because
Our chat.
did you end up going on this trip? What are you
No,
talking
I
about?
have not gone on this trip. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
I've been planning this trip with friends for over a year now.
Okay.
And we can't get our stuff together.
Okay.
Meanwhile, us strangers
Yes.
got this together in a matter of like
It just sounds
three,
like
We
you-
three and
became
a half,
friends
4
in a
months.
day, in an
Right.
hour.
You probably should just drop these
I'm
friends.
proud of myself. I'm proud of you guys.
I'm proud of
yourselves.
us.
I'm proud of yourself.
I'm proud of ourselves.
Yeah, me too.
And who'd have thunk it, right? Like on
Yeah.
that rainy April morning.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what happened that
Let's
day.
talk about what happened.
Wow.
Let's talk about what happened.
I came in late. You guys start.
All right, so Jonathan, you were there first. How was your morning that morning?
I don't remember. No. No,
It was raining.
I remember,
that
you know,
day.
it's funny. I'm not going to name this person. I don't know his name. I was walking in. There was a random guy who was just kind of like, "Oh, are you going to like the writer workshop thing?" And we were like pretty far away from it. I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Do you know where it is?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's like in like the Drexel, whatever one of the buildings, wherever." And he's like, "Oh, okay." I just remember I walked in, but then I didn't see him ever again. Like I didn't see him go in. He wasn't.
So
I
he knew
lost
you
him.
were going there, but he wasn't actually
Maybe.
attending
I mean, he probably
the
was.
workshop?
I'm assuming he was in the
Oh,
workshop.
you just hadn't seen him.
I
I'm
just,
sure.
I don't know. Maybe he just likes to
saw
know where
you?
everyone's going.
He saw you and
Maybe
was
he got
like,
scared.
"You're a writer." He just knew you.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
just knew it
That's
from
what
your
it was.
face.
Yeah.
I will say
He ran it. He's the CEO.
You give the vibe of writing.
like
You
he
give
might
writer.
be at a writer's workshop, and I know where it is.
That's
So yeah,
hilarious.
I went in, and then I don't know. I think I saw it was a decent amount of people. Once I figured out like what floor everything was on, I was kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna sit here and collect because I had like my like backpack of stuff, and I think I was looking through like the stuff I printed out, and I was just sitting there, and then you just showed up, right? You just started
I
sitting down.
showed up. I felt like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, you're here now. So, make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed a place to sit. And I saw Jonathan. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, he's got kind eyes. I'm going to sit right next to him.
Oh wow! So it was an
Kind
intentional.
eyes.
Yeah.
It was the kind
You
eyes.
have
It wasn't like
kind
it wasn't
eyes.
like well, there's space, so I guess I'm sitting here.
No,
Oh,
no.
wow.
I think there was space with other people. I don't
Wow.
recall, honestly. But I sat next to you and with zero intention of having a conversation
Sure.
because while I like to sit and talk to strangers, not everybody does.
Sure.
So I didn't want to impose myself on you. But then you said, you're like, so are you an author? And I think I laughed
Did
at
I
you.
really say that?
I laughed at you and I was like, I'm not an
I couldn't
author.
tell you what I said. Wow.
That's what you did. Yeah. You asked me if I was an author and I laughed at you. And then you asked me, so what am I doing here? And we sort of went from there. And then
Sound like the
Sharon
worst. What are you,
came
an author?
in.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, why are you
here?
doing here if you're
You
not
don't
an
belong
author?
here. Yeah, and then Sharon walked up and asked if the seat was taken, right? You said, or can I sit here? Or
Did
is
I
this
say, can I
taken?"
sit here? Maybe I did. If that's
I
how,
think
you
you
know,
did. I
I
think
think
you
that's
You
said,
how
must
"Can I
have.
sit?"
I hope so.
I,
I hope somebody said, "Can I sit?"
I think I did say, can
You
I
said
sit
so-
here?
you did.
I did say, can I sit here? And, I walked in, not late. I was definitely towards the start time and it was pouring rain. I took the subway. I was like, this is just a day. It was gross out.
The pen relays were happening,
Mhm.
so the
Yes.
city was full of traffic.
Mhm.
It cost me $27 to get in an Uber from Reading Terminal down to Drexel.
Wow.
$27. I was like,
That's
I would
crazy.
have just walked here if
I
I had
didn't
known
realize
I'd be
that,
spending
yeah.
$30 on
Wow.
it's not 2 miles maybe?
Yeah, that's
I actually don't know
that's
if it's 2
surge
miles or
pricing
not, but-
in effect right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just drove. Okay, I took my wife's car because she works at Penn, and so I just took a car, parked in her lot, and then walked
that's
over.
nice.
That's nice.
But yeah,
Came
that's
in
where I met
clutch
my
for you.
friend, who I never saw.
No, you never saw again. Your
Yeah.
real friends were waiting for you.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
that's-
No, but I walked in and I just remember, kind of getting myself together and finding my way and finding, going downstairs and every seat was taken. Except, and then I see the two of you on this couch with this one seat open next to Diana. And I was just like, I like honed in on it. I'm like, that's my seat. I don't want to be in the middle of this room. I'm going to go sit there, which is odd because I'm like, bye.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I was like, I just like kept my eye on it and I was just beelining toward it. And then I said, I'm almost positive. I said, can I sit here?
I think you did.
Interesting.
And you two were already in conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm like getting myself settled and knocking over my water bottle and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, because I too was like, what am I doing here?
What am I doing here?
And then I heard you guys, because I also am one that is always up for a conversation on a couch, always. I'm a therapist. I guess that was a joke. But anyway,
I get it.
Thanks. But I saw you guys and I heard you talking about what you wrote.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, you were talking about your sci-fi, and well, I know we'll get into it, your sci-fi genre creation. And I was just like, his book is so different than what I'm trying to write here. And I was so surprised. And I don't know why, because we're at a writing convention.
Yeah.
It's going to be different kinds of writers. But it was just like, I started to like, no, there was no panic, but it was just like, oh my God, like, am I really supposed to be here? Like, I'm here now. I'm just going to wing it. Like, we're just going to figure it out. Yeah. And then I inserted myself into your conversation and then heard about Diana's book.
And I'm so glad you did.
Yeah.
Because here we are.
So that was fun.
So I feel like I need to ask, like, where is everyone with their writing? Where are you?
Right.
Because when we left the workshop, your manuscript was done, I thought.
Yes. Okay, it's done as any manuscript ever is. It was mostly done, but then once you start getting some serious like conversations with agents, then you're like, oh wait, I need to like make sure this is like someone who knows what they're talking about is going to look at this.
Yeah.
So I went through it again. So it's done, but the thing is, it was a very interesting experience being there because I didn't know what to expect, and also like when I first came there, what I thought was ready for the book, especially with like pitching the agents, and also like the first 50 pages, like was completely different than what I found out from there. Whether it was what readers are looking for in the first page or so, what also like what is the story that I'm trying to sell to people? Like, is it necessarily the story that the like audience is going to read per se? So a lot of times, like I felt like I was selling like, oh my God, like this is exactly all the like this is the metaphors I want people to understand, the subtext and like all the different characters like motivations and the arcs, and like I was trying to push that into my story. And I think the workshop really helped me like sell like what is so common about this journey, what is like the one little slice you could add to your pitch that really like hooks people in. And as simple as that sounds, it's like everybody's so afraid of losing all that deeper meaning in that story. So I mean, it's I don't want to say it's a completely different story from when I first arrived there, but it definitely has shifted to kind of line up more with I don't know, something that's a little more like common to everybody, something that really you can go bam, there's the story. Like if you were pitching it, reading it, you'd be like, okay, there it is. And so I mean, I would say from what I have now, I am pretty much set. I'm in that state.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That is
I mean,
great.
Oh my gosh.
We'll see. The feedback I got there and the feedback I will be getting in the future will, have me having a different conversation probably on the next episodes.
He's actually an author.
No.
Secretly already published.
No, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on one agent that I queried there, but we'll see what happens. But the feedback was great. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I found that there were some like, harder notes where you're like, oh, wow, okay, I thought I had that figured out. But there were some that were really helpful in just kind of getting like, I don't know, my head around how to talk about the book.
Yeah.
I found like when you spend so much time on something, you feel like you know it so well that you're like, well, if I just open the page and start talking about it, it's going to be obvious. But people really, there's certain things people need to know. There's very specific things that they're like, I don't care like about that part at all. Like you need to, I don't know, I'm still learning, but you need to develop that really clean pitch about what your story is.
And it's a lot harder than you really think it's going to be, because as the creator, you know all the nuances and you know the ins and the outs, and you're so excited about it, and the other person on the other side is like, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
I think like we should take this opportunity, like, what is your book about?
Oh, yeah. So wow, you think I would know this by now? No, it's in simple terms. It's
Jonathan's like, I'm writing a book. What?
Wait, what?
it's a story that really documents the journey of these three very central characters. The main character being Jin, who she's kind of like I don't want to say bratty, but she's very much like in that stage of being a teenager. She's like in the story. It takes place in a completely different world from ours. So, but to compare it to ours, it'd be like graduate that stage right after like high school, like going to college, like that age, like maybe 18 to 20-year-old mindset. And she's over her parents, she's over her family, and she kind of is a character who is kind of ready to just kind of get out of her current mundane life. And the book kind of starts off with this crazy, almost supernatural, weird thing happening where everyone, her parents, her brother, everyone disappears. And she kind of wakes up and she's just on this journey. She's in her city. She's in a somewhat familiar place, but she is kind of figuring everything out all over again from scratch. Her memories are a little foggy. And throughout the story, she meets these different characters who sort of try to help her patch the memory together, but she meets a lot of elusive people that she kind of has to figure out are on her side or not on her side. And so it goes from this kind of journey of she starts with a great family. She starts with this close-knit, nice little world. And then she kind of has to be thrust into refamiliarizing herself with kind of the chaos of losing everything that she had. And just like anyone else who, has kind of, especially going off to college at her age would be right for us. You kind of get this first sense of the real world. And so this is obviously a bigger scale science fiction supernatural version of that. But she kind of gets the first sense of like discovering all this chaos on her own. And throughout it, the different characters she meets also have similar stories where like all of a sudden their worlds are kind of uprooted. And they're all trying to figure out how they're possibly going to, make some sense of this. And without giving away too many spoilers, there is a lot of stuff. So my world takes place sort of in like the futuristic sci-fi kind of realm. And so there's a lot of things that start happening that kind of erode all the, modern flashy things, and characters have to kind of somewhat return to their primal roots of being human. And hopefully
Wow.
through all these things they discover with each other, they kind of learn how to be humans again, how to discover what really matters. And again, without spoiling things, there's a lot of other twists and turns that really make them have to learn about connecting. That's hopefully the big overall thing is how we can connect.
All right. Very cool.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Did you find that it was difficult because Jin, your protagonist,
Yeah.
is a female?
Right.
Did you find it difficult to write in a different gender?
I did. But the thing that was interesting for me is I spent a lot of time so a lot of the research for this was honestly just watching, reading things, even listening to music, just trying to absorb myself in other brilliant artists' work. And one of the major things I wanted to do was find a lens to both understand, not just like gender or sexuality or different things that are just foreign from whatever my identity is, but just trying to understand people. There's a lot of very different people. And using that as my lens for the character versus being like, okay, this character is this, and I have to make them behave this way. And so it was a lot more about like, who is this person? Like, what are some things that somebody maybe struggling with what she's struggling with would feel like? And at the end of the day, once I kind of did all those basic like background things for the character, I just had to let the character breathe. And like, just like anyone else, they're going to become their own person. They're going to have their own problems.
Yeah.
And then I found like it wasn't hard regardless of gender. Like I could have swapped some of the characters' genders
Right.
and it didn't really matter because they're so unique to this story that it's just like, yeah, I'm sure I could have met someone like that who, is a different identity or whatnot. And I also found it a little freeing too, because I felt like I wasn't as actively trying to like put myself in the character.
Okay.
I was like, this is just a
yeah.
person I'm meeting.
I
Like
can
this
see
is
that.
like a
That-
whole new person.
Did it start out as a female protagonist,
Well,
or
it's-
did it turn into a female protagonist?
It turned into it only in the sense that her brother Jan, so they're Jin and Jan, which is funny because my brother and I are J names. I did not intend to do that, but that's kind of what happened. He was going to be the main character because he was kind of like this odd entity that you'll see later kind of
Yeah.
ties a lot of things together. And as I was writing it, it so happened to be her birthday was the first chapter. And as I was writing it, it was like her personality, everything about her just kind of rose to the surface. And I was
Okay.
kind of thinking, oh, okay, like there's something here, whether she's the main character, he's the main character. Like I just ran with it, and then as that started happening, things were happening to her. She was the one having to make decisions, and I think it just kind of like shows it for me.
That's
Mm.
cool.
Where it was kind of like that happened with a bunch of other characters, where I was like, oh yeah, this is their story,
Yeah.
and I didn't have to worry about picking.
I only say that because I do have, male characters in my book as well.
Right.
And sometimes I find myself really being like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
how would this person actually respond to this, as opposed to, a woman responding as a man? Like I'm just trying to.
Well, then, yeah, tell us a little bit about your process then. Obviously, maybe a little bit about your story, but then
Yeah.
how that worked for you, especially because your protagonist is female.
Is
So,
female. So I am writing an upmarket women's fiction novel.
yeah.
About a woman who is like living her best life. She's married to the love of her life. She does have a 6-month-old baby that unfortunately passes away.
Mhm.
Her marriage subsequently falls apart because I think we understand that trauma will either make or break a relationship.
Yeah.
So Coralina, my protagonist, kind of has to figure out if she wants to have, some sort of life for herself after this tragedy. What does that look like? So, the book explores, grief and love and loss and reinvention.
Yeah.
Trying to understand what intimacy looks like and desire, like, am I worthy of being desired? Can I desire again? And just joy in general. So,
Yeah.
and I don't want people to think that like, it's 300 pages of just like sad sob stories. There is levity, and I do find it funny. She's funny. She does, I will say, she does keep some secrets, and she finds herself in just a little bit of trouble, a little bit, like the kind that like you need an attorney for.
So what?
Just a little bit though,
I want my lawyer.
a little bit.
So I know I'm kind of going off topic a little bit from the gender thing, but I don't know, like what made you go that direction? Because this story, I'm imagining, has nothing to do with your life, but like, I don't know, just like getting in the headspace of a character who would go through that. How do you access like, okay, this thing happened to me that didn't happen to me.
To me, yeah.
Like, where do we go from here?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I think like even though I have not lived Coralina's life, I can have empathy for what she has gone through, and I can still, I've grieved. I've loved, I've lost, I've in some ways had some sort of metamorphosis, some multiple parts of my life. So even though your story is not, and that's why I feel like what makes stories so powerful, it's like you don't actually have to have lived this to come out of reading it or watching it and feeling some kind of way, feeling attachment to these characters, because you're like, wait a minute, I've felt like that at some point in my life as well, so
You relate to it.
you can relate, and feeling seen and represented in a story that has nothing to do with you just is like, I think it's really powerful. So I didn't find it difficult to write any of it, honestly. With the exception of, again, like when it came to the genders, like trying to be as authentic as possible, because I do think that in certain circumstances, a woman is going to respond as a woman will, and a man is going to respond as a woman, as a man would. So trying to be as authentic as I possibly can there.
What are then, like, when you talk about these challenges, like what are some examples of writing these male characters? Like, what are like specific things that have happened? Whether it's like, oh, like what is his experience, or how would he react to that? What's like, what are those struggles you've come up with?
I feel like I just sort of like take my own life experiences.
Yeah.
So I'll use this as like an example, right? Like, you can ask my husband a question, and he will give you an answer in 3 words. You can ask me the same exact question, and I'm just like, well, sit down, it's story time, because I love a little bit. Blah, 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 blah.
So that's interesting.
So I feel like in the book, right, when I'm talking about Patrick, her husband, or I'm talking about Logan, her love interest that comes later in life. And even Sebastian, who is one of her greatest friends, he is a man. He's also a bit of a narcissist. So like getting myself in that headspace, like that does not come natural to me. So I kind of had to do some research there. But yeah, I feel like coming to conversations, bringing conversations to the table that most men would respond, come with specific answers and how they would respond to questions. That was a little more difficult.
Did you find yourself drawing from reality? It sounds like you're drawing from a lot of more like real life experiences. Like I know for me, it was helpful to do a mix of real life and also like fiction or like seeing things I've seen and read before where I'm like, oh, I like how they portray that character. What's going on here? How do they react to things? Because we are doing fiction, and so it's interesting to see like how much is grounded in like reality, right? How much of storytelling that's beautiful for the character, that's beautiful for that metaphor or overarching thing I'm trying to portray versus like, yeah, I met that person before. Does that matter as much? I don't know. There's a certain level of identity that does matter, of course, but like, it's like how much is it where it's like, nah, I wouldn't say that, or a woman would never do. How much does that play a part?
I want to say it actually plays quite a bit of a part because I want it to be realistic. One of my pet peeves is if I'm picking up a book and I'm reading a story and I read something, I'm like, that would never happen. Like no one actually does that. And from an entertainment standpoint, that's great. But if I'm trying to create something that's going to stick with someone, and obviously this is different, right? You are writing dystopian fiction.
Sure.
I'm not saying it's not going to happen because I'm sure at some point we're probably living in that space.
That's a podcast
That's
episode
a
for
whole
another
other
day.
podcast episode.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, I want it to be as realistic as possible. And it even goes back to like the feedback that we got from the agents that we spoke with. So I spoke with 4 agents. They were really wonderful. And they were like, I pitched them the idea for the story. It's a really great story. But I don't want it to be 2 books, which is something I should mention. Right now, my story is meant to be a duology. So it's supposed to be a 2-book deal. But the agents were like, well, you need to put it all in 1 book. And I said, well, why? And they said, well, because when we pitch a book to a publishing house, it's harder for them to sign on for a story that's 2 books because they don't know whether or not the first book is even going to sell. And it completely makes sense to me. But then I feel like I'm expected to rush this story that I feel like needs room to breathe and, relationships to develop properly as opposed to feeling rushed. I mean, no one loves a beach read like me. I love an easy breezy story. Like, what's going to happen. Like they meet, they hate each other, they love each other, blah, blah, blah. But again, going back to that point where you think to yourself, this is just so unrealistic. This is not how the world works.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, I'm sure that we will get into the fact that there is that line. Like, where does it become like, oh yeah, I'm not connected anymore. I'm out here, and this book is just not,
And sometimes people will just be like, well, I'm just going to finish it because I'm in it. I never want somebody to feel like that out of something that I'm writing. I want them to really be like, I can't wait to go back to that book because I can't put it down.
You have to love it first, and then everything else will come after. But I think it's nearly impossible for me to write to specific audiences to be like, this is just for you. I'm trying to pull at your specific heartstrings because I don't think I have that in me. I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't, figure that out, but I think the thing that I'm going to bring to the table is the specific story I want to tell.
Yeah.
And I think, that's the marketing job to figure out like, the marketing part of it of like, this is kind of a this and that works for you. And this is kind of this that works for you. But I wouldn't start at the blank page going, all right, like here's my audience. Let's try to hit all these points, And I mean, and your book is so different.
It's so opposite.
I know.
So
I hear about.
So I'm sitting here listening to you guys, and I'm just like, oh, I'm such the outlier, but I'm happy to be there.
That's great. That's
But like, it's different journeys.
It's such different journeys.
Yes.
Such different journeys.
Well, you're working on nonfiction too.
I am working on nonfiction, and before we start talking about my nonfiction, I just have one more question for Diana, which is, where are you with your writing? Like,
with
where?
My writing.
Yeah.
So I'm about a quarter of the way through book 1 right now. And I have a very, very dirty draft of like the next couple of chapters. But it's been kind of cool because I've used a couple of like beta readers, and I actually need to pay beta readers, people who don't actually know me and love me. Because
that's very important.
I have shared it with a handful of folks that are my target audience, right? And a lot of their feedback has been like, this is this, and this is that, this is great. And almost everyone, actually I shouldn't say almost everyone has said, I want more. Like, I want to keep reading. I
Yeah.
want to keep knowing like what happens next.
That
So,
was
like,
the number one thing the agent told me was like, have you had people like strangers or be like,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I've had circles and different groups. Like, that's good, but you really want to make sure you get a ton of people who
Mhm.
don't
have
care
that
about hurting your
connection.
feelings,
who
Yeah.
don't know you.
who don't
yeah.
have
Yep.
any connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're
That's where the real feedback comes.
people will say
Yeah.
they'll give you feedback. They're not
Yeah,
gonna
but
give you like this is
meanwhile,
boring. Like they're not gonna say that.
But it also could be awesome. Like
Yeah,
it could
yeah,
just
it could be, and it could be
you
good.
know?
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
true.
good to get that neutral.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I shared it with my mom. My mom.
That might be good feedback. I don't know.
Did she hate it?
No, my mom is like me, right? Like
Mhm.
my kids could literally blow bubbles into milk and I'd be like, babe, that was amazing. Like we have to call America's Got
Yeah.
Talent today,
Yes.
you know, like
Yeah.
That's awesome.
so my mom is very much like me. So when she called me and she's like crying and she's this and she's like,
Oh.
this is amazing. I was like, yeah, but you're my mom. So I
Yeah,
feel
right.
like
Yeah,
I'm
thanks,
taking this
but-
with a grain of
Well,
salt.
I will say from what I read, it was really good, and I'm not.
Yes.
When I read it, I barely knew you, so it's not like I
Mhm.
needed
That's
to
right.
really.
Yeah, that's true. I did share it with strangers. I shared it with you
Yeah,
guys.
see
And
that?
at the
And it's
workshop,
And it
changed.
just I'm sure it did, but it was gripping. Like I mean,
Yeah.
just really easily takes you in. It was so effortless.
well, I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to reveal this, but they read it at the workshop, so
They
at least
did.
part of it.
What
They
yeah,
did.
but I don't know if you were at that session. They kind of like blind read, like they didn't see who the
Oh
author
right,
was.
no, I
Oh, right,
wasn't
yeah.
at
and
that
they
session.
and they
I was
read
at
her
the.
first page,
I
right?
was
They
learning
did
how to
like
sell
first page
nonfiction.
reads, and I was so nervous. Like I actually started sweating when they picked it. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh no, no, no.
And it was random. You didn't
It
know
was
what
random. I
happening.
didn't
Yeah.
know that they were going to pick
That's
it,
awesome.
and
I
it
feel like
was
it was good feedback, right?
I thought a lot of the feedback was like no feedback,
Mhm,
right? That I
mhm.
remember
Yeah.
there, but they didn't. I hope no one like hears this that actually went to this workshop, but like I felt that some of the other samples that were read,
Yeah.
there was probably a good amount of critiquing.
Yes.
Right. And I didn't get critiqued. And I don't know if it was
Yeah.
good or bad. And I almost
Right.
wanted to be critiqued
Sure.
because I kind of like wanted to be able to work on it. And I didn't get that. The only thing that I remember was one of the agents that I ended up actually speaking to. She said, there's that towards the very end, there's this we'll call her like a supporting cast member. It's this brass peacock lamp. Peacock lamp
My spirit animal.
that makes its way with
Yes, I
Coralina
remember that.
throughout the story. Like she takes her.
How crazy is
through,
that?
I know. So anyway, so the agent read it and was like, I want to know more about this brass peacock. And when I sat down with her, so we did the blind reads earlier in the day, and then I sat down with her for my like one-on-ones. And unfortunately, like there was a schedule conflict, and I just said, I was like, I was the one that like wrote about the brass peacock. And she was like, well, I want to know more, like send me your first 50 pages. And I haven't done it yet because I got in my head about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I
Well, guess what you're doing
I
today?
remember being so excited for you after, like, oh, she wants to, like,
I
this
know.
is exactly what we were
And you
talking
have
to.
50, right? To
Oh
send
yeah,
her.
I have over
But-
50 pages, but I just
But
I-
what's holding you back?
Yeah.
Like, why did you not?
On this podcast, we're sending it.
You're accountable
your
to all of
iPad
our
I'm sending it in.
listeners.
Literally,
No,
it's
I- Okay, so honestly, two reasons. One is one of my biggest fear is that I'm writing something that I am so proud and excited about, and that people are going to find it like rudimentary and it be like, "Meow, meow,"
But like, let
that's-
that happen
I
first.
imagine that that's a common fear too. I
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one reason. The second
Sure.
reason is because my story is told on two timelines. So we have a before and we have an after.
Okay.
And I wanted to make sure that in the first 50 pages, there was enough of the before to make it compelling
Okay.
of a read and enough of the after. So I wanted to like really make
Okay.
sure they were perfect before I just sent her something that like I was not ready to share with her.
Hmm.
So that is
Oh, the therapist in me is just like, oh,
Those are the-
okay,
those are the
perfect. There's that
two-
word.
those are the two reasons why I haven't sent it to her. But
Whatever the story is at 50 pages, that's what you should send.
That's what it
You
is,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be
Yeah.
about, oh, does that capture enough? Like, they asked
Well,
for 50, that's what they're getting, you know?
I know.
Like-
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Okay, good.
Let y'all know when I send it.
It's perfect.
Okay, so episode 2, we'll be like, congratulations on sending your...
And I was
I
like,
think
yeah,
it's
I'm
so-
so glad I sent it.
I think it's
Yeah.
so easy to get mired in that is it good enough
Yeah.
kind of thing. I get that. I
Yeah.
get it totally.
But yes, so therapist
I was
in
gonna
you.
say no one knows their therapist.
Well, she's mentioned it. She's
I just
mentioned
No,
it.
on the
let-
podcast,
I
I'm saying they're
let-
like therapists.
I
What?
let the cat out of the bag on that one. Yeah, I'm a therapist.
So Sharon, obviously you are writing nonfiction. So
Yes.
walk us through where you are with that. You got some feedback from the workshop that was
interesting.
we'll call it interesting is a good word.
I'll tell you
Very
why it
different
was interesting
kind
too.
of feedback.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that it was bad feedback. It just at the time I walked out of there. Well, let me preface this by saying while your page was getting read, I was in a workshop of how to publish nonfiction.
Mhm.
And it's women's nonfiction, whole different ballgame. Like I was approaching it as if it was a creative, like in terms of selling and in terms of like, the pitch, the query, not order. And as I'm sitting in this workshop in this particular class, I was like, or session, I found out that you don't write the book first. You pitch the idea. They carry that through, they sell it, and then you write the book. And that was a shock to me. I was like, well, perfect, considering I haven't written a word. But I did have the idea, and I did have the idea fleshed out. And so I met with 2 agents, and one of them was this woman that taught this class. And I was really excited to meet with her because she, like, my book idea was like her jam. And I was like, this is the person I really want to talk to. I met with another agent. I didn't know as much about her. I knew she did some nonfiction. And interestingly, I walked out of there kind of disappointed because the first agent that I really, really liked, I pitched my idea to her. She's like, this is a great idea. I just bought this book 3 months ago. And I was like, wah, wah. Like, oh. And I realized very quickly, I'm like, well, that means there's a market for it. That's great.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have to be it, and that's fine. Then
I mean, how many cookbooks are there in the world? And we buy them all. We buy them all.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
you're a different person, so everything is
unique
laced in
voice.
silence, but there's a different voice.
You have a unique voice. Yeah, totally. And I wasn't crestfallen about it for too long because she did give me really good feedback in terms of, the idea that I have was not general, but she helped me sort of even hone it into maybe even a more niche kind of
like
topic,
streamline it a bit,
which I'm a little like not sure about yet. So to tell you what was so interesting is that the second one I met with, I just like wrote off her feedback because I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you today that 2 months later, I'm doing exactly what she said.
Wow.
And what she told me was that, look, she goes, with this kind of writing, this kind of idea, you want a following. You want people who are reading articles that you're writing about this thing. And I'm thinking, like, I'm not going to sit here and write articles to get a following. Like, I had just come off this, like, you have to be on Instagram. You need to, because I'm a therapist, I'm a coach. I'm trying to like generate business and whatever. But I'm doing that was so just like against everything, like putting myself in front of a camera. Talk about that. Like I can talk to the cows come home if I'm feeling comfortable. You put me in front of a camera, it takes like
it's hard.
18 takes. And then I'm like, this is stupid. Let's just put this out.
I know all about that.
Right. So it's just, eventually you just have to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So I did a couple of times and I was like, this does not feel good to me. And so then I started hearing about Substack.
Yeah.
You guys are familiar.
Yeah.
Substack used to be this blog site, a newsletter site, and it has expanded into so much more. I started reading up on it. I started talking to people about it. I am so enamored with this idea because it fits me. And my book is going to get written through the articles that I share on Substack, basically. And that's what I've sort
awesome.
of.
Very
so
cool.
I haven't been. I just started. I'll send you guys my little thing.
Send me the link.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. You can subscribe.
Love that.
I have, and eventually, like, there are so many things that I won't get into now that I'm doing that are all connected, and this book is one of them.
Yeah.
And my goal right now, and it's funny, I just wrote another article last night that I have to tweak still, but, the idea of my book is how women often, whether they're, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, how often in relationships they disappear. And they can be the most charismatic, capable, high-functioning, ass-kicking women, but they fall into the background when it comes to their relationships and their families
Yeah.
because they are doers and they want to take care of everyone and they want to take care of everything. And then suddenly they wake up one day and they say, I used to be freaking fun. What
Mm.
happened?
Yeah.
And where am I? Why am I doing so much and getting so little and feeling so burnt out? And so it really is about what that is, kind of naming it, how that happens without us even realizing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then um, what to do to kind of come back to choosing yourself.
Yeah.
And
Which takes work, by the
oh,
way.
so much work. Oh, so much work. And
Yeah.
look, I mean, I'm saying this, you guys are sitting here writing from the perspective of the other people that you've never met and that you aren't living in their shoes. I lived this. Like
Mm.
I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk
Yeah.
about your fiction books, and I'm just like, it's so different because this is so much of my lived experience
Mm.
because it happened to me. And I realized that, it's not about choosing to be in a relationship or not being in, being alone is amazing in a lot of ways, but also has its downsides.
Yeah.
And so does being in a relationship, right? So it's not a book about like you should leave or you should get out
Right.
or you should, being alone is amazing. It's not about that. It's about choosing you first, realizing like, okay, this is really what I want or don't want, and then operating from there.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot about kind of how you get back in this. And, there's a lot that I do about, resilience and stress management and getting back in your body. And, it's all, so it's based on, because I am a therapist, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've been doing, private practice for almost 15 years now. And, which was like a second life. And that's something we can talk about another time.
Another
It's
episode.
another
Mhm,
episode.
mhm.
But doing what I have done and being in the frame of mind that I've been in for so long, like there's so much that comes from my lived experience, from the experience of my clients, of people that they are interacting with. I'm hearing all of this and I see it so often. It's not just me. And I am writing this book so people know that it's not just them either.
So in the book, is there a separation between the kind of clinical mind and like your personal kind of feelings, or does it feel like it kind of weaves into the?
Ideally, it's going to weave in. And
Yeah.
that's, when you'll see, I only have a couple of articles up on Substack. Another one is coming. I just went to Italy recently, and I know we've had a brief discussion about that. And it's funny because Diana asked me a question about what was my favorite part.
Yeah.
And after we talked about that briefly, there was one thing that like stood out that I totally forgot about, and that's what I'm writing about now, and it has to do with curly hair, which is
Oh,
sounds crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah,
you do have curly hair.
I do have curly hair. I have very curly hair, and
Yeah.
it's I will not spoil it for
Okay.
you, but it's
Yeah.
it's basically something that happened in Puglia, Italy, that kind of that brought curly hair to the forefront, and that's
Mm.
all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
But it's those kinds of articles and like owning yourself and coming back to yourself,
Mm.
because it is a piece about curly hair and how people try to hide it and
Oh, yeah.
straighten it out
Yeah,
and
yeah.
try to make yourself who
That's
you're
so
not.
true.
Oh, this is like hit. And I
Mhm.
started, and after we last met, we were prepping for, and staging and whatever. I was thinking about that. I'm like, this is so what I'm trying to do. I'm trying
Mhm.
to, very unlike you guys, I am talking to a very
Sure.
like narrow niche of people who need to know that, hey, you're not the only person feeling like this, and there is
It
a
might not be that
reason.
narrow though.
Maybe not that narrow. I
Like
don't
you
know.
have an
We'll find
audience,
out.
but I feel like it's such a it's such a feeling that everyone has.
Yeah.
I feel like people might pick it up that aren't necessarily like the direct, like if you were in your office and in therapy, maybe that's not the conversation you'd have with them,
Right.
but they'd be interested in hearing about
And
this
that's
because
just it. Yeah, and you're exactly right, because that's
Yeah.
just it. It's not something I'm having a conversation with a lot in therapy, because I can't tell my clients what to do.
Right.
I can't say, here's what happened to me, this is what you should do. It's not about me. Like
Yeah.
that's in my office, in my therapy sessions, it's not about me. In my coaching world, where I'm broadening that out a little bit, I am able to kind of share my lived experience a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more. And that has been an interesting plank to walk, if you will.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like that's a whole other thing that I'm sort of
But you know what's
working
really
on.
interesting about that is I feel like when I'm getting advice from someone, whether it's paid or free or whatever, I feel like when the person that I'm speaking with can say, here's what happened to me.
Mm,
I am more likely to listen to you than not.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, wait a minute, you actually,
You
you
do
do
get
get
it.
it.
Mhm,
You do
mhm,
get it. You're not
mhm.
just giving me words that sound really nice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
and so
saying?
it's so
Yeah.
interesting.
So, and of course, I'm sure that in your profession, there's probably like a level of confidentiality that you want to
Sure.
keep, right? And you want to
Boundaries.
hold boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, boundaries. But I think there's something really powerful when you're trying to sell something to someone that might be skeptical of how
Yeah.
much you actually know what you're talking about, you know?
Yes.
Well, it's probably
I
hard with
agree
that
with
relationship too, because I know me, like, so I'm also in therapy, but I'm such a person. If I'm not getting anything about how your day was, what you were interested in, like, I
Mm-hmm.
feel so odd and so like, even though that's the job of, that's the whole point of it. I
Yeah.
find that I'm like, so what about you?
Yeah.
does,
Well,
does
right.
that hurt? Does that strike a
Yes.
chord with you? Does
You're
that
like, you cried today too?
Yeah, yeah.
Just me?
Just
Yeah.
me?
So tell me
All
about
right.
your family.
right.
Tell me
Oh,
about
maybe you cried as well.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a couple of things about that. You both are so spot on, and I think that it really is a case by case thing.
Yeah.
For some therapists, it's a safety issue.
Sure.
Like there
Oh,
are.
no, I get it.
Do you ever
Of
see?
course.
Do you ever see the movie? I'm dating myself. Do you ever see the movie What About Bob?
No.
Have you ever heard of that
No.
movie? It's
No.
with Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss, and it's from the maybe late '80s. I have no idea if it would hold up today, so don't cancel me if
Okay.
it's terrible.
It's okay.
But it's about a patient of this psychologist. Richard Dreyfuss is the psychologist, and Bill Murray's the patient.
That checks out.
It totally checks out. And it's about how he needs his therapist, and so he comes to their vacation home and like wreaks havoc.
Wow.
That's obviously a very extreme kind of thing.
Yeah.
But with me, it's hard because I am an open book
Right.
in
I was
my
going to say,
personal
you
life.
are a very open person. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, so that has to be
It-
difficult for you to.
It was an interesting thing to learn and to understand. And I
Yeah.
started out when I first started as a therapist, I was working with military, with active duty
wow.
Army and Navy. And it was
We need so much more
really-
of that. I'm
Oh,
so
yeah.
glad that
Let me tell
you
you.
were doing that. I'm sure at some point you probably could
Oh,
continue to do
it was
that.
amazing.
Yeah.
I still see people who
Yeah.
are in my practice through the Army, but then I was actually like, my detail was on Fort Belvoir in Virginia, and so
Wow.
it was awesome. It was awesome because I did learn so much about that sort of invisible wall that goes up.
Yeah.
That I have to kind of not only protect myself but also protect them, because I'm not here to sort of shift their journey.
Yeah.
Now, what's so different? Well, first of all, I do have clients that know a lot more about me than others,
Sure.
because it's just the nature. Either we've been working together a long time, they just know how I am. Sometimes, I do what we call self-disclose when I think it's something that is helpful
For trust.
for trust, for
trust.
humanity.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
I was sitting at my parents' house one day, and my dear dad, who is 90, he just turned 90. God bless him. But he, kind of didn't quite get the concept of therapy, privacy, that kind of thing. So I was in the office in their house. I was staying there for a little bit, and he like opened the door and let me know that he got me lunch, which was so nice. But
During
my
your
client,
session?
during my session. So
Oh,
my dear
Dad.
client, my sweet
Just
client,
wants you to eat.
who he just wanted to
Just
make
wants
sure
you to
I was
eat.
nourishing
Yeah.
myself. It was
Dad
the
doing
sweetest
dad
thing.
We don't know
things.
that people eat. We don't need to know that people are humans.
Right. Well, so
So
this
I know,
is,
I get it.
So I was mortified, of course.
No, of course.
But I also was like, it was so nice of him, but I was mortified, and I felt horrible that it
Yeah.
like interrupted what we were talking about, because it was
Yeah.
actually a really poignant
Okay.
moment in my session. And instead of like my client like closing down and just being like, oh, that's just a total invasion of privacy, she's like, oh, it's nice to see you're human. Like,
How
oh,
about
Aw.
that?
okay.
Yeah.
Up to that point, I was like,
I was too. Trust me. I was just like, she's never going to want to meet with me again. And I've been meeting with her for a long time, but it was just like, so
Yeah.
that moment also just sort of hammered home what you're saying. It's like, sometimes it's okay. And so I really have learned to kind of, with my therapy clients, to really just sort of, I offer it if I feel like it's going to help.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
there's a question that's lobbed at me, I'll choose whether, how deep I want
Or
to
not,
answer it
yeah.
based on the situation. But beyond that, what I'm doing with this book, I'm holding a retreat. I'm starting to hold retreats for, just sort of a conscious reset to let people sort of remember that they can treat themselves well.
Good.
Um,
Can I come?
Yeah, I would love that.
All right,
Oh,
good.
It'd be
Oh,
amazing.
okay.
Can't wait.
You
I'll
and-
see you guys
you
later,
and
I
Jonathan?
guess.
We're out. But I'm growing that. So my first
Yeah.
one is in the fall, and I'm trying to grow that aspect. And like, so there are a lot of other things where I am going to be showing up much more as me,
Good.
because I need that too.
Sure.
I think it's really helpful to me too, and it's rewarding to me to be able to show what I've lived and what I've learned through my work.
Yeah.
In this book. To answer your question, my hope is that it gets really weaved in
Yeah.
my personal lived experience and the clinical knowledge I have. So
Hmm.
it's yeah, so that's where it's at. And so the Substack is starting, and I'm starting to gain a little momentum with it.
That's great.
And at first I had the perfectionism bug.
Mm.
You know, I was like, I can't put this out. It doesn't directly
know.
correlate to my book, or it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
you know, my first article was about peanut butter, which there was a message underneath it. I
Right.
think I said in it.
I'm
was
gonna
like,
need to read that
I'm
one.
gonna. I'll. Yeah.
No,
It's
I
fine.
don't need any
intrigued. I mean,
context.
you
I
don't need
completely get your
know.
point.
I
I
just
need to
said
know.
it's about the peanut butter, but it's
I
also
have
not about the
follow-up
peanut butter.
questions.
Yeah, it's
Sure you do.
Follow-up questions about this.
But I had to remember that, like, because I'm me, like, it's not all gonna funnel in this one track thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to do that. So there's stuff on acceptance up there. I'm gonna have this curly hair
Sure.
article. I plan to write more about like the caged elephant. You ever hear about, you know, what that means? Like that kind of thing. Like there are a lot of things that we don't realize that we're doing, or
Yeah.
how we're
Yeah.
acting, that I want to shine a light on. And so that I'm really excited about that. So my book, quote unquote, is being written in this whole experience.
That's awesome.
Can I ask, have you considered how much of your personal story you are willing to put to paper because of that?
Yeah.
Have you thought that through? Like,
I have thought it through. I'm thinking about it now that you're asking.